Good afternoon, everyone. So today is Monday, September 13th, and we're getting ready to start Module 1. So really getting into things for the course now. And as I said, Monday lectures are going to be online. So I just got the course Canvas page here. You can find the Module 1 material a couple ways. I'm just going to show you how to do that. You can find it under Modules. You'll notice there's a Module 1 page. You can follow this link and then just click the thing up here to get the full page if you want. Another way to access it, I've got the course syllabus up here. If you just go to the course overview, click schedule, there will be a hyperlink to Module 1. And so again, that works as well. This table is going to be updated every time I post a module. So I just want to do a quick overview of Module 1, kind of explain what we're going to be doing both today, Wednesday, and in your lab sections. So this is the Module 1 page. I've got a bit of details listed here, along with the learning outcomes and sort of what your expectations are. So for today, Monday, it's pretty mellow to start things off. So today's lecture, again, is just asynchronous online. Watch this video. It's going to be posted at the very top here. And then, yeah, so watch the video and just kind of look through this page briefly. Look through the main page on the content tab and watch a video on redlining. Then Wednesday, the lecture on the 15th is going to be in person. So this is going to be our first in-person meeting. Looking at the start of term survey, it looks like about 20% of you are taking this class fully online. So I'm actually using the allotted class time today to go into the classroom and try and figure out, get my bearings with the whole live stream situation. What I'm going to be doing tentatively is recording the lecture on Zoom. That way people can attend live and participate and drop questions in the chat if you want. Even if you're attending in person, you could always jump into the Zoom chat to ask a question there if you're not comfortable raising your hand. Anyway, that's just an aside. There's going to be a Zoom link that's going to be available here. I haven't posted the link yet, but I'll make it available before lecture starts Wednesday. So again, I'm going in to get my bearings for how the whole tracking camera and mic works and get everything installed on my computer. I would have liked to been a little more set up a little earlier on, but I don't feel like UBC did a very good job preparing anyone for this term. So Wednesday's lecture is going to cover all the sub pages in the content tab. And so what I mean by that, there's a couple sections here. You can see Module 1 is just the header, but then we have content and application. So these are the two sort of key parts. Content page, you can see, you click here, there's a main page, and then there's a set of sub pages. And with application, again, similar setup. So for Wednesday, yeah, it's going to be in person. If you're going to be attending on Zoom, you can follow this link. A recording will also be made available after the fact. I have yet to decide whether it's suitable to put that or figure out whether it's suitable to put that on YouTube or not. I think there will be some consent issues regarding folks in the class. So we'll see how that goes. But nonetheless, it will be made available somehow, whether that's on YouTube or on Canvas. And then there's the lab, which is going to cover the application section. So again, content is lecture, application is lab. You're going to work through the application tab in your lab sections. So the learning outcomes for this module, so basically we're just doing a historical overview, looking at the origins of GIS, starting way back in ancient history. So when did the first maps develop, and then when did people start actually conducting like systematic surveys after that? We're going to talk about exploration and expansion, how maps are intertwined with colonialism, talk about the development of the first atlases, which were really the first paper-based spatial databases, development of map projections and spatial analysis, which are really instrumental for the furthering of the science. And then we'll talk a little bit about historical wrongs. So we're going to focus a little bit on that. Well, today. We're going to watch a video kind of highlighting one of the key examples of how maps have been used to do harm in the past. And we'll also talk about that a bit on Wednesday. So that's mainly the learning outcomes for the lecture portion. For the lab portion, you're just going to do a broad overview of ArcGIS software to get an introduction into the software package that we're going to be working with today, or throughout the semester. So the main goal of this lab is really to just get your feet wet, help you develop a little bit of familiarity, get your bearings, and then, yeah, work a little bit with the Esri's ArcGIS Pro. So as far as like deliverables, what you're going to turn in, every module is going to be scored out of 100 points. And so for this module, you're going to be submitting a couple maps too that you're going to create in lab. And then a few written responses to prompts that will be embedded in the module. And you'll also be taking a quiz consisting of like multiple choice, numeric input, fill in the blank type questions. And so you can find all that on the assessment page. So I will just kind of go over this briefly and then talk a little bit about lab and lecture. So this is the assessment page. What I suggest you do here is you can download this document here. So if you just follow this link, you should be able to download this document. If you just click raw, then you can just save this page as a text document, and then you can write your answers in there. So the way these are going to be submitted, your quiz answers, the multiple choice ones, and then also like your written submissions and your file uploads, they're all going to be submitted on Canvas. So in the Canvas module, you currently see a module 1 assignment. This is for the file submissions and written portion upload. There will also be a module 1 quiz. I have not written it yet. Might be a few hours late, but I'll get it posted before the first lab assignment, or the first lab section. Anyway, what I suggest you do is you just download this document, and then again, if you download it as a text file, then you can just open it as a text file. Say using like Notepad or whatever you want, really. And you can just type them in here. You can record your answers that way. So then you can go back and put your answers into the Canvas quiz rather than leaving the quiz open for a week or whatever. So you can just kind of keep track of all your answers in the document and then go back and input them down the line. So there's 2 parts. There's a quiz, which is just like multiple choice, numeric input type questions. And so that'll be worth 25 points, or about a quarter of the module grade. And then there's the assignment, which is your written answers and your file submissions. Now, the way this is set up is each question here should be hyperlinked to the portion of the application or content page that it is actually in. So you can see Q1A, what does the select by attribute tool do, is on this ArcGIS Pro tutorial page for your lab. But on the assessment page, as you're working through it, you can just click the hyperlink to be redirected to whichever question you're on. Now, these should link to the right location. If anyone notices an error or anything, please just shoot me an email and I'll fix it. So again, the quiz is just like multiple choice, numeric input, fill in the blank type questions. This will be filled out on Canvas. You have unlimited number of attempts to take the quiz. So like you'll be told, you know, what score you get. And if you want to try, say you get 20 out of 25, and you want to try to improve that, take as many tries as you would like. Don't feel obligated. The assignment is just a one-time submission. So what I suggest you do is write up all of your written responses in a document, save it as a PDF, and then upload it. The file submissions, you'll save those as PDFs and upload them as well. upload them as separate documents. So I think that should cover how you can go about doing the assessment. So for today, what I want you to do is basically just kind of review this first page of the content tab. So broadly speaking, what is GIS? What is GI stands for geographic and information. And then the S can be either science or system. You'll often see them used quite interchangeably. They're really closely related, though they're not synonymous. But basically, you do GI science with a GI system. And so what is GI science and what is a GI system? GI science is essentially just a framework to use or that we use to understand spatial information. So it's deeply rooted in cartography, which is the art and science of graphically mapping space. But GIS is inherently multidisciplinary, so it draws on computer science, mathematics, and statistics, remote sensing, and many other fields. A GI system is something that we use within GI science. It's a tool to store and analyze geospatial information. Anything that can do that can broadly be considered a GI system. So until the late 20th century, atlases and library map catalogs were our most advanced GIS. But now we have a wide range of computer systems. This ranges from the smartphone app that can navigate you across campus, and the small, which is like a small GI system with very limited applications, to the desktop GIS, like ArcGIS Pro, which can do all sorts of things, has really wide functionality. Its main limitation is just the computational capacity of the computer it's run on. And this goes all the way up to things like Google Earth Engine, which uses cloud computing to store and process massive amounts of planetary scale imagery. And we'll talk about the various types of GIS as we progress through the semester. So what can be done with GIS? Broadly speaking, GIS can be used to help solve a wide range of problems in the fields of epidemiology and public health, planning, either urban planning or hazards planning, so that's like disaster management, conservation resource management, ecology and biology, economics, climate science, and a broad range of other topics. We'll try to touch on some of those through the term. And yeah, what are we going to be doing with GIS specifically? In lecture, we're going to learn like the theories and concepts of GI science and provide some background on GI systems. In lab, you're going to learn how to do GI science using GI systems. So lab's going to focus more on applied practical solutions. And for this module specifically, we're just going to give you a tertiary overview of the development of GIS, starting with like the prehistoric evolution of cartography all the way on in present day. So it's a lot of information, but I'm going to try and present it in a fairly condensed, abbreviated way. So this module mostly focuses on the history of GIS. Really, a holistic understanding of GIS can help you use it effectively and responsibly. So a good way to start that off is to just look at the history of the subject. Where did it come from? What has it been used for? And what are some ways that it's impacted people? And this is just a quote from a textbook on history of spatial analysis. I'm not going to read it to you, but you can look through it yourself. So for today, we don't have a whole lot for you to do besides just watch this video, review this little page. And I guess if you're in lab on Monday, then you'll start lab tonight. But in the intro video for the course last week, I gave a pretty detailed land acknowledgement, and I said that we really needed to work to decolonize our practice in GIS. And I said that historically, maps and GIS have been used as tools of oppression in settler societies. So what did I mean by that? I meant that history is filled with examples of GI systems being used by those in power to influence, direct, or dictate policies and practices that harm marginalized communities. So in some cases, these negative impacts are just unintended consequences They could be due to carelessness, lack of understanding, could come from well-meaning intentions that just went awry. In many other circumstances, however, the negative impacts are the explicit intended result of the geographic analysis or of the mapping. So maps and the arbitrary, poorly thought out lines that we draw on them have enormous power to determine the outcome of someone's life, and which side of the border you grow up on can, for instance, dictate which school you attend, what rights you have, what tax rate you pay, where you can travel, what political system you live under, and many, many other things. So it's really important to think about that, understand it, and appreciate it. So on Wednesday, I'm going to go through these different tabs, which is going to, again, kind of start off giving you an overview of the history of GIS. Again, this content's not yet available. We're just going to progress through the history of GIS on to present day. But for today, what I want you to do is specifically look at a historical example of how maps have been used to oppress. Specifically, we're going to look at the example of redlining. So this is the systematic denial of services to a racially marginalized group by like government or lending institution. And so for much of the 20th century, redlining was legal and widespread across North American cities. So this practice has been much more thoroughly documented in the US, and the video below that I want you to watch mainly covers it from the US perspective. But it's very important to note that this practice happened in Canada as well. And so much of what's talked about in the video applies on this side of the border as well. So this video is like 30 minutes long or so. It's quite informative. So yeah, your main task for today is to just watch this. So that more or less covers the lecture content. We'll pick up here on Wednesday. I do want to just briefly mention the lab content. So for this week's lab, basically what you're going to do is get a brief introduction into ArcGIS Pro. You can look at the lab access page on the syllabus if you have some questions or issues regarding lab access, especially if you're in the lab tonight that's accessing things remotely via Zoom. This is just the first step for getting started. Shows you how to actually just create an Arc Pro project and how you should save it. Moving forward from there, your first step is to just complete a series of ArcGIS Pro tutorials. Well, you're just going to complete one tutorial. So I've linked to a tutorial here with the end goal basically being to create this map, and then you're just going to submit it. And that'll be your first file submission. Once you've completed this first tutorial, I'm going to have you watch a set of 4 videos that go through other tutorials. You don't actually have to do these tutorials, but they show you how to do certain important tasks like exploring your data, making a map layout, things like that. So you watch each of these. There's some questions corresponding to different parts. Then the rest of the lab, we're going to be redoing a classic example from history of one of the first examples of spatial analysis, taking maps and using them for a purpose that's not navigation or just like displaying. So we're going to look at one of the foundational studies in epidemiology, which cover on this page if you want to get a bit of an intro overview. But basically, we're going to take some historical data, which you can download here, and bring it into a modern GIS. So I've got a little video here kind of explaining how to do it. And basically, we're going to take this data, we're going to apply some modern analysis techniques to it. So we're looking at a data set of a cholera outbreak in London in the 1850s. And the person who collected this, Dr. John Snow, did a certain analysis, creating something called Voronoi polygons to identify the source of a cholera outbreak. And this is a pretty rudimentary analysis, so the methods that we will look at today are just a little bit more modern. You also notice in the table of contents for the lab sections, anywhere there's a question, it is embedded in bold, hyperlinked at the very top of the page. So we're going to go through, redo the analysis using some modern techniques, create a map, and then this second map will be the one that you submit. So your final map should look something like this. Again, those file submissions and your written answers and everything will be submitted here on the assessment page. Yeah, so I think that's more or less all I have to say about Monday. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email. So your main task for today is to just watch this video.